Call roll, please.
Atkins?
Here.
Crawford?
Here.
Depper? Mark Goddard?
Here.
Samuel Goddard? Graff?
Here.
Bagman?
Here.
Hall?
Here.
Harris?
Here.
Josting?
Here.
Crable? Longfellow?
Here.
Mennel? Mingus?
Here.
Nelms?
Here.
Paget?
Here.
Trail? Rich Stimson? Schneider? Sin?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Chairman Zimmerman? You have a form?
Thank you. We stand with invocation, pledge. Invocation be led by Dave.
Dear Lord, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for allowing us the pleasure of conducting the county's business. May we always maintain an environment of civility and respect for each other. Please provide us the wisdom and guidance to make decisions that serve our citizens. Thank you for wonderful employees and continue to keep them safe. May we always be mindful of your love for us, and may we pass that love to others. Please return all of us here safely to our homes and families. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with the communications from the public, county employees. First person is Jared Olar.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you for just a few minutes. My name is Jared Olar. Some of you may know I work at the Pekin Public Library. I am the library's local history specialist. I accidentally brought my name badge with me in case I forgot who I was, so we got that on here. I didn't mean to do that, but it's actually fitting because my interest in history it predates my time of working at the library. I've been interested in it since I was, quite frankly, about 10 or 12 years old. And growing up here in Pekin, got to find out very little about it, just living in the town, living in Tazewell County, knowing really nothing about the place where I lived in until I grew up and started having jobs that put me in a position where I had to start learning about it. And so learning the story of the community that I grew up in and lived in for most of my life, and then learning as well the story of this county in which we all live in has been a real delight for me to be able to help people find out the answers to questions about when did that happen, or why is that there, what is that building, and who built that, whatever happened to this business. I remember when I was a kid. Questions like that have been very fun for me to be able to dig into and learn about. And more recently, I've done something rather dubious prudence, I should say, and perhaps kind of foolish. I decided to put my name forward to serve on the City of Pekin's Historical Preservation Commission. So that's another hat that I get to wear now, volunteering for that. Because I do care about history, I like to find out about the story of us, the story of our communities, and to see how did things come to be the way they are, and why do we do things the way they are, the way we do them. What are these buildings and structures that we live in and work in? It's very fun for me and for a lot of people to be able to have that sense of continuity and community of walking through the place where you live and seeing structures that have been there for a long, long time. Now, more recently, there's been controversy here in Pekin because county's plans are have made some people kind of upset. Other people like the county's plans of building another structure, which would help serve the county's needs in some ways, but it would involve the loss of 2 more landmarks of downtown Pekin. And because of that, of course, As you might expect, my biases and my interests are such that I lean in favor, well, I'd like us to save and repurpose and reuse, preserve as much as we can as possible. So my appeal is for us to think about our story together, because next year, the city of Pekin gets to celebrate its bicentennial. Now we're counting that from 1824. City of Pekin didn't start till 1830, but we count back to Jonathan Tharp arriving on this site.
Start back up.
Oh, sure thing. And so, because we're going to be thinking of our bicentennial, we would like to be able to celebrate across our community, and to be able to celebrate also in just 4 more years the county's bicentennial coming up in 1827. With these things in mind, I'd like us to think about ways to work on helping the county provide the services it needs and fulfill its lawful duties as a county seat in providing for court services, but also to be able to think about preserving heritage and working in ways of honoring and celebrating and showcasing the things that we all have in this wonderful, beautiful county that we live in. So, thank you very much.
Michael Reagan.
Good evening. Take my 3 minutes here. Michael Reagan. I am a 20-year Navy veteran, retired disabled veteran living in Tazewell County. I retired in 2006, became a military corporate recruiter, advanced technology services, helping veterans get jobs there. I then transferred and went to Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs, where I worked for over 6 years helping veterans find jobs. I went after that, to Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs, was a veterans advocate, helping veterans to do disability claims and the such. I decided to do something a little different. I started a group called 22VA, 22 Veteran Artists. For those of you that haven't heard of this, we decided to home base in Tazewell County. I bought a little farm because the VA expected me to buy the farm. So we deal with veteran suicide. That's why we're called 22VA, 22 veterans a day commit suicide. One of the reasons why I'm here today, after having all the experience that I have, I decided to do 22 veteran artists, where we could teach veterans to build sculptures, do art things to help veterans deal with PTSD, anxiety, depression, things like that. One of the reasons I'm here, I came to the 17th of the month. I went to Veterans Assistance Commission meeting in Tazewell County. I'd like to apologize to everybody from Tazewell County and let you know that veterans are not a burden. Last year, Peoria County Veterans Assistance Commission brought in $9 million in federal benefits from disability benefits that veterans received. Tazewell County brought in 0. They've got a nice food pantry. We really need more. And I wanted to say, as of January 1st, the laws changed in Illinois. A lot of us here are familiar with that. All the Veterans Assistance Commissions are now required to do disability claims. I myself, not even working officially anymore, have done 5 intents to file to help veterans to do disability claims. I have to send all the veterans to Peoria County, unfortunately. Last year, Peoria County, I believe 27%, or in the 20s, 25% maybe, of the veterans that they assisted were from Tazewell County. I just think we can do a whole lot better. I tried to apply for a position to work in Tazewell County, never received an interview. I would like to make sure that Tazewell County starts recognizing that there's no reason 28 veterans had their rents paid $8,280 last month. Some of those veterans, I guarantee you, have disability benefits they could be receiving. And I'd like to see them get the help they need. So if they do need any help, you can get them in touch with me through 22VA. You can just do hashtag 22VA on Facebook, look us up, or send them to Peoria County Veterans Assistance Commission. We'd be happy to help. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Diana Lee.
Diana Lee. I don't like to speak in public, so bear with me. I'm asking all the board members to please listen, because, and I thought of sending emails, and I've done that before and didn't get any replies. So I thought it'd be best just to come in and speak. But my family's been in this community since the late 1800s. Always. I was born and raised here. And we have, like Jared said, a great history in the town. And I've been working with not the commission, but the people that are trying to do something for the preservation of these buildings. Tobin and the arcade. And I just feel like we're not being heard. We've got over 600 members on the Facebook site, and that's just Facebook, because there are people I've talked to, several of them don't even know anything about this going on, and they're all in favor of preserving the buildings. So I wanted to say, you know, and based on the person that you had come in last month as a speaker, Mr. Setti, he had said that we should use the river and maximize and leverage that for commerce and tourism. He didn't say anything about tearing our buildings down or making things new. He was talking about all types of things for commerce and new businesses, ideas, you know, that would help in that sense. And I take that as a preservation for our community. Like Washington Square and Galena and the other ones that have a great tourism because of their history. We don't have that here yet, but we're trying to bring that in. So we didn't have a preservation committee for years and years, but now we do. So we kind of come in on the tail end of this, and one of the things I'd like to ask, other than email or a call to one member, is there any way that we could all just sit down and talk about some of this? We don't want to fight. We don't want to argue with people. We're just trying to, you know, so we can kind of merge ideas and see what's going on. I feel like we're blindsided. We don't know what's going to happen next. You know, it's kind of like you guys are just rolling ahead with the plan, and we're sitting there waiting for the news. So if there's some way that we could open a dialect or communication, a Zoom meeting, collective call, something, to where we could actually discuss this and hopefully come to some agreement instead of, and it doesn't mean it's agreement on our end or yours. It's just, so we kind of know what's going on or what the plans are. So that would be extremely helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Lonnie Howard.
It's always interesting. When I was here, I think a couple months ago, we talked about the backs, so I just thought I'd show you my back today. And it's hard to follow Diana. She is so very passionate. She loves this city. It's hard to follow Jared. He also is very concerned about our buildings, as I am. But we've talked about it, and I thought her idea of getting together would be a wonderful one. I'm hoping that you all haven't gotten your minds made up already, that you aren't willing to try to get together and see if we can't make something that's amenable to all of us, that would be in all of our best interests. Those are two beautiful buildings, and you are so kind. You always pay so good attention. Thank you. I observe you doing that, and I observe also Mr. Ackerman. I know he cares, but he cares about different buildings. But we'd like to care about those other buildings, but we really would like to keep the Tobin and the arcade building intact and not demolished. There surely should be a solution for all of us. Thank you for paying attention, I do appreciate it. You all have a good evening.
Thank you. Tim Bear?
Name is Tim Bear. Is that all right? I want to address an issue that came up at the March Tazewell County Board meeting in my comments tonight. The issue is whether someone is speaking in public comments as an individual or as a spokesperson for an organization. My suggestion is that everyone should be considered as speaking as an individual unless they have an authorization signed by an officer of the group they are representing, giving them the authority to speak on the group's behalf. This would have prevented the confusion from my comments on the part of the non-target group at the March meeting. I note here there appeared to be no confusion on the part of the target group from my comments. The second issue that I think good to discuss is the concerns that the board chairman had with my comments about the legality or the illegality of the board chairman's actions concerning the appointment of Michael Deppert in late January. I did attempt to address the board chairman's concerns about my comments twice, but the board chairman did not give me the opportunity to explain my comments. I now offer a way to resolve the issue at this meeting. If the Tazewell County Board will vote their approval of the board chairman's action in Michael Deppert's appointment, I will be glad to accept that my March comments were wrong, and I will present publicly to this board my full and sincere apology for my comments. This is a vote that I expect to lose, and I am fully prepared to offer a public apology after the Tazewell County Board vote. In closing, I again thank all our board members for their service.
Okay. All right, we'll move on. Any communications from the elected or appointed county officials? Roy?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted, was it Jared that spoke? I really have been following this bicentennial and had a little bit of interest in this, and I think as much as maybe this building issue is just a small part of history, I think if we look at Senator Dirksen's for the centennial celebration, you might be very well aware that they did a beautiful play regarding China, and the heritage of the city is more than just the buildings. There's a beautiful history here with Pekin, and it's something that I hope will be we'll see what our Congress comes up with and other individuals that are working behind the scenes. But beautiful history, the name Pekin from Peking, now Beijing in Chinese, Bei means north, Jing means area. So this is a beautiful story of two cities, and the heritage that you share is more than just the buildings. And I just hope that we can pay tribute to the entire heritage of this beautiful city that happens to be the seat of our county. Additionally, I'd like to comment on Mr. Bear, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
I will appreciate if you just leave it in the committee meetings and let Dave handle it, because it's an issue that the board's addressed already. And is it an opinion or?
No, it's just something that perhaps, I believe he was referencing perhaps decorum, and, I think we have, the chairman with the rules committee, and maybe it could be discussed in committee on proper decorum when we have open meetings, with people coming forward.
We can discuss it in the committee, yeah.
Committee, yeah.
Right.
Are you on that committee, Mr. King?
The rules committee?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, okay. It'd be nice to know the decorum, behavior from how we address our open meetings, that's fine. Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I've spoken a little bit with, Mr. Paget regarding what our rules of decorum are, and we don't exactly have much other than there should be decorum. Certainly we can bring it up at the rules committee at our next meeting and discuss whether we need to have more detailed rules regarding decorum.
Right. Thank you. Any other county employees? All right, Hannah, Russ?
Thanks. I guess I was being too quiet, which is rare for me, Mike.
You've been noisy the whole meeting.
Okay, a couple things. First of all, Tim doesn't need to owe anybody an apology, but this board already did what he requested. We approved Mr. Deppert as a board member at that meeting, so we don't need to do that again. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing is about the rules. About 20 years ago, I had the board pass a resolution which was on, I can't remember whether I called it ethics or I'll be honest, it happened when Pekin City Council started to act sort of uncollegiate with each other. And so I had the Tazewell County Board pass that. I haven't ever seen it since the board passed it. I think we passed it unanimously. And that's not in the rules, but it probably should be. And so Bill and I will try to find that thing along with John's help to search for that and then see if we can do that. The last thing I wanted to say is on the Rules Committee, just a little update. We met once. We have a meeting or two other planned. It's Bill is the chairman, and Sierra and I are the only members of the Rules Committee. We have made some progress in that both sides on this minutes thing. There seems to be a little bit of rub there. And both Mr. Ackerman in the county clerk's office and Michael and Dave have had movement towards some cooperation, which is a good thing, because the chairman, Bill and Sierra and Russ all expect that to happen. And by the way, the state's attorney, who I had the occasion to be with recently, and we talked about this, he expects it to happen. So I can tell both sides that we need further movement, because this committee is not interested in cutting a baby down the middle. We expect Team Tazewell to take effect, and so we appreciate what you've done, and we need you to sharpen your pencil. The last thing on the Rules Committee, Mr. Chairman, thanks for your indulgence, is there was a request by the county clerk to move all the files by Monday, and all three of the committee members agreed that that's not necessary, because it is possible that those files would be moved, and then, since the committee hasn't made decisions yet, would have to be moved back. So we do not feel that that's necessary. That's the extent of the Rules Committee's report. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. All right, any more elected officials? Hannah, you have a presentation you'd like to make?
Thank you, Vice Chairman. For any of you that don't know me, my name is Hannah Clark, and I'm the treasurer for Tazewell County. I want to start off by saying I think that transparency and communication is important from these elected officers to the board, not only to the board, but to the public. So that's why I chose to spoke about these two items today that are pertaining to my office. First, I want to talk about investments. I have updated our investment policy with a few minor changes to our collateralization and securities. So I emailed you all a copy of that policy, and I also posted it on our website for public viewing. Also with investments, since the start of my term, I've seen that the interest rate for CDs and some money markets are increasing this year. So with our county general operational cash over the past year, on average, it sat with $22 million after all bills are paid. So I invested $10 million of that money into one money market and two CDs. So $5 million of that money went to a money market, making 2.5% interest. And of course, with a money market, it's liquid cash, so we can just move that into our operational cash if we need it. The CDs, the 6-month CD has $2 million, making 3.51% interest, and the 12-month CD has $3 million, making 3.62% interest. Also, our ARPA CD was only making 0.17% interest, so I rolled that into a 6-month CD making 3.51% interest. So I also submitted some graphs to you guys so you could see the estimate of return, and that will be a little over $397,000 within a year. And just for reference, that amount is more than we have made on investment interest from the last 3 years combined. So with other existing CDs, as they mature, I put out bids and reinvest in CDs with the highest interest rate. And over the next few months, I will be talking to each department head to discuss their cash flow and any projects coming up so I can make sure I'm investing their money wisely with the highest return. The other item I wanted to talk about is tax bills. So the 22 payable 23 tax bills are in the mail today. Yay, we're all so excited. The bills are yellow in color. The first installment is due June 1st and the second installment is due September 1st. If you don't receive a bill in the mail, you have a few options. You can go on our county website and you can search for your tax bill. You can actually even print it off of our county website. Or of course you can call my office and we can give you the information or mail you a bill wherever you're at. Also, as of this year, I have added a few new payment options when paying online. Now you can pay by PayPal or Venmo. You can also schedule payment. So if you're gonna be on vacation during a due date and you're not ready to give up those funds, you can schedule your payment to go on the due date and it will be considered on time. So all other payment options are still the same. You can come into our office and pay. You can mail it to our office. We do have 2 county drop boxes, one across from the Pekin Post Office, and one of them is attached to the front of the McKenzie building, and you can put your payment in there and you do not need to put postage on your envelope. Also, you can pay at some local banks. If you want to call our office, we can give you the information for banks in your city that you can pay at. You can also pay online or by phone, by credit card or e-check, as well as the PayPal and Venmo. Of course, there are convenience fees charged when paying electronically, and all of those are stated on our county website and break that down for you. So if anybody has any questions, I'll stay just a little bit later after the meeting to answer those. But if you have any future questions, please know that my door is always open.
Thank you, Hannah. Good information. All right. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 29th County Board Proceedings. Motion by Jay, second by Kim. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes approved. We have in-place transportation committee meeting. Jay?
Actually, our vice chair is here, so she's gonna take it. You want me to take it? Oh, okay. Alright, I guess I'm taking it. Okay, roll call please.
Chairman Mennel, Crail. Here. Crawford.
Here.
Depper. Paul.
Here.
Harris.
Here.
Nelms.
Here.
Beckett.
Here.
Davenport.
Very good. I need a motion to bring T 23-13. Nancy, second.
Second.
Russ, okay. adopt, recommend approval of joint funding agreement.
This is T2313, is a joint funding agreement, BLR 05310 PE. It is the Highway Safety Improvement Program allows us to secure funding through the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission and IDOT. So we will be able to get, for 10 cents on the dollar, a lot of guardrail work done in Tazewell County. So what this T2313 is all the details and arrangements between Tazewell County and IDOT.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, next we have T23-14 to approve the LTA engineering agreement.
Okay, this,
Oh, yeah, we need it. Okay.
So moved.
Is that Nancy and Russ?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Dan?
this is the natural progression of things here. This joint funding agreement, I need to say, back to 2313 for a second, this is for the engineering. I'll be back before you probably, once the engineering is done, there'll be a set of plans produced, and then we'll actually move into a construction phase. So there'll be another resolution regarding that. As far as 2314, this is the main local public agency engineering agreement, the 05530, and it is on an IDOT form. There is aspects affecting the county and IDOT, and Mauer and Stutz will be the consulting firm doing the design, and we did go through the Tazewell County's QBS process to secure this, utilizing the great services at Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. So this is the actual engineering agreement, which will secure a consulting firm to actually do the design work.
Any questions on this resolution? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Dan. Okay, we are in recess.
Thank you, Jay. An in-place executive committee meeting, would you call roll, please?
Chairman Zimmerman, Vice Chair Harris,
Here.
Atkins,
Here.
Kraft,
Here.
Hall,
Here.
Josting,
Here.
Longfellow,
Here.
Mennel, Mingus,
Here.
Trail, Rich Stimson, Schneider. You have a form.
Thank you. Entertain a motion for E2359, to approve the First Amendment to the option and lease agreement with the solar company. By Greg Longfellow, second by Kim Justine. All right, we have some information. Mike will explain it to you where we're at on this.
It's just some quick back history on this item. The county had solicited bid proposals in 2018 to have a solar farm at the Tremont campus. There was one respondent to that bid as Green Key Solar. In 2018, the board approved with the company going forward with those plans to take the next steps. In 2019, there were two option and lease agreements that were approved. One was the Pearl Street Solar 1 and Pearl Street Solar 2. Pearl Street Solar 1 is on the south part of Route 9 that's already been constructed, and one we're talking about today is Pearl Street 2, which was on the north side. The lease for this, the options expired in July of 2022. For this option and lease agreement, the company is requesting that the option and lease be extended, and with those terms, we would get $1,000 a year for the third term, and then the fourth term would then begin in the July of this year. And so they would give the solar company the opportunity to lease the land at a rate of $1,000 per acre, and for the first 5 years, and there's a 2% escalator starting in year 6. So this would be for a 20-year lease period, and they have the option to renew for 4 or 5 year periods, so a total of 40 years if they accept the option or take the option. So at committee, we ended with a motion to amend where the date was getting inserted on the section 4, where it'd be June 1st, the date that they would pay us the option 3 payment by.
So we need amendment to put the date in, right, to the motion?
It was motion and seconded, and then it was tabled to executive, so this would be voting on whether to enter that June 1st date.
So we pull it off the table, a motion to pull off the table. So entertain a motion to pull this off the table. By Bill, second by Nick. Comments or questions? This is the executive committee. Comments or anybody can ask a question. Greg?
I read the minutes and I kind of agree with Nancy Prail's comments that she made about the south side's enough, and I think we don't need to be looking at the north side. So if you don't approve this, I guess the question is the time up on it, and it won't be on the north side if this is not approved? If that's the question, I would hope they would lean that way.
I think we have an answer. Do you have the answer, Mike, on that, or do?
Yes, that's correct. The agreement had expired this past summer, and so right now they don't have any option to lease, so this would be reinstating that agreement.
We can turn it down.
I think that'd be good.
Nick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm involved in another lease similar to this, and I think that $1,000 per acre is a very stale number. I'm aware the lease that I'm involved in is offering much, much more than $1,000 an acre for the same type of farm on that property. I think it's time to say no. I'm not sure I want another, I agree with Mr. Sen, I'm not sure I want another solar farm there, but I definitely know I don't want another solar farm there for only $1,000 an acre. So I'm not sure where this is at. I really don't want to bring it off the table just to let it die, but I'll defer to Mr. Atkins to see how to do this, but I'm not in support of this. Thank you.
Any other comments? Bill?
I would argue that it is better to take it off the table and vote it down affirmatively so that it's not lingering. But I also agree that this should not be extended.
All right, I'm going to call for a vote on this.
Bring it off the table.
Russ?
Did you say that it's okay if you're not a member of the executive committee to ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just two things. One, a comment has already been handled very well by Nick Graff, because I thought it was a mistake, the $1,000. It's so low and insufficient. The second one is it's a matter of, maybe this is for Michael. I don't have any problem with anything going through executive. I think that's healthy. But I also wanted to know why it wasn't going through land use since it was on solar.
I can't answer that one.
I know, that's why I asked Mike.
So it already has the proper zoning, so it's gone through that process, is my understanding. So this is now just the option to lease. So Jackie could certainly highlight that a little more thoroughly than I could, if you'd like.
Well,
Jackie, do you have a response to that? Can you?
Yeah, so the item on the table right now is just the leasing of the land, has nothing to do necessarily with the solar. The solar was approved.
I see, okay. Thank you.
All right. All in favor of taking it off the table, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
I just wanted to know what I meant. What was yet I to take it off?
The table, yeah, this is executive committee voting to take.
Well, I don't know.
Okay, so
That's right, yeah. So, from what I hear, it's a unanimous vote to take it off the table. All right, now, we, have the date, the amendment, to put the date on it.
Yeah, at this point, you would vote on it, on the recommendation to approve the amendment.
Now, we haven't, though the amendment was on the table, we just took it off, okay. Now, the motion's on the floor to amend it to June first.
It'd be for the third payment. There's a blank on that field right now, and so it's to insert June 1st as the deadline for them to pay us for the third option if we were to approve the agreement.
This is for the executive committee to approve or not approve. So if you say aye, you're approving the amendment of the date put on there. If you say no, the motion's turned down. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Oppose?
Aye.
Alright, let's, I didn't hear any yeses, so the motion fails. The amendment fails. Alright, now we still have a motion.
No, this actually was an amendment coming forward,
Yeah.
was the motion, so it really was not, I don't believe, an amendment that was, tabled. Was it, maybe Nick can refresh my recollection, was it actually the amendment to it that was tabled? Okay, I was under the impression it was the original, sorry.
So we have the motion without the date, on the executive committee to approve it without a date. So all in favor signify by saying aye. Oppose?
Aye.
Motion fails. Alright. Executive is in recess. Alright, consent agenda, we're pulling 7, 8, and 23 for sure. Are there any others? Oh, 23 is off, we just didn't pull it. Greg? 19? Alright. And just for information to the board, I'd like to have the health department tell us 28 on the county ordinance on the sewer. So any other? We're pulling 19. So we're pulling 7, 8, 19, and 28.
And not 23?
Not
23 is dead?
Yeah, dead.
Okay. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the remainder.
So there's a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda. Second by Nick. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Alright. Entertain a motion for T2313. Nancy, second by Greg. This is on the joint funding agreement for guardrail. Any comments or questions? Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for T2314, engineering agreement by Jay, second by Dave. Comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 19, T2355. Entertain motion by Caden to approve it, second by Kim. Greg, you brought this up, can you?
Yes, a few years back, we were approached by, I'm not sure who, a gun group, it was about supporting legislation towards, in support of maintaining certain things. I think this may be inappropriate, what we have, I think is appropriate for the sheriff because of his, but I don't know if that opens the door for everybody else to come in and us vote on such a sensitive issue that really we have no vote on. It's the state's state situation, stuff like that. So we did say that a few years ago when we did have a large gun contingency come in. And I don't know if we do pass this, if that's gonna crack the door open that we're part of this whole thing again. And I don't know if, I mean, I think it's fine for the way to do this, but I think it may crack the door to get into stuff that we chose earlier not to be involved with.
Bill?
Yeah, we, in addressing this in legislative committee, we actually did consider that, and initially I even took it off of one of our agendas, but after further discussion, while there had been this consideration previously about maybe making some kind of a stand with regards to Second Amendment rights, and there had been some concern about that being beyond really what we should be addressing. In this particular case, it seemed entirely appropriate because our sheriff is actually involved in a lawsuit specifically regarding this legislation. So this is not just taking a stand on what we believe the law should be for the state. This is actually taking a stand supporting our sheriff in fulfilling his constitutional duties in actual litigation. And so this is, I think, significantly different from just generally citizens coming forward and wanting us to take a stand on particular issues.
Russ?
So, I support the sheriff and I support the Second Amendment, but again, that same meeting that I was with State Attorney Kevin, we had some discussion on this. So my question is for the state's attorney, because I think he's in the room. Does the fact that the sheriff is in a lawsuit, does that cause the state's attorney to support this? Or the state's attorney can just issue his thoughts on this, on us passing this resolution.
You want to answer that, Kevin?
I'm not sure I understand exactly what the question is.
I guess.
Question is, do you have, as a state's attorney of Tazewell County and our legal advisor to the county board, do you have any problem with us passing this resolution?
No.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to the last one, E2364. Entertain a motion to get this on the floor by Nancy Prale, second by Greg Sin. I surprised you, Amy, but I think it's information that a lot of people should know.
Bruce Johnson, who's our supervisor of mental health, has worked with us most closely. He's going to provide the remarks.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So again, I'm Bruce Johnson. I am the environmental health supervisor down at the health department. So really, we are proposing these changes really in kind of response to some changes we've seen in the real estate climate. We're seeing a lot of homes being purchased in non-traditional means, and by that I mean we're seeing a lot of people whose livelihood is basically purchasing homes, whether they're foreclosed or foreclosed upon or whatever it is. They're purchasing them and flipping them. We're seeing a lot of homes that are being sold like as is. And then in addition to that, just because of COVID and just some other things, housing shortage, things like that, we're also seeing a lot of individuals completely waiving inspections just to get an offer accepted, as well as purchasing homes sight unseen, just because of housing shortages, things like that. So really, we're just trying to make sense of what we're seeing in our area. Yes. So currently, under the ordinance, under current ordinance, it is a requirement to get an operational inspection for any property that is served by a private sewage disposal system. We are eliminating the word required and having it be recommended. The reason for that being is simply, for these situations in which, an inspector can't even get on the home to do the inspection because, the bank, whoever owns the company, doesn't let they may not let anyone on the property until closing. So under the current ordinance, there is no way for that transfer of ownership to occur like in a legal sense. If grandma, grandpa, is leaving a property to, grandson, granddaughter, whatever, we're finding out that it's putting some burdens on, those who are leaving this property, because under the current ordinance, anytime that property changes ownership, they have to bring, this existing septic system up to meet current code. So even though we've got, a system that was, permitted and installed in, let's say, the 70s, 80s, whatever, when they sell that property or that property is given, to a family member, they're now being required to bring that septic system up to meet what is, the 2014 sewage code, state code. So we're just trying to make sense of these things. Another one of the changes is reducing a setback distance for our surface discharging system. So not all septic systems are created equally. We've got some that completely remain subsurface, but we do have some, such as buried sand filters, aerobic treatment units, that do have a discharge to the ground surface. They are disinfected prior to going to the ground surface. There's a little chlorine puck in there or UV light. So, there's not like raw sewage going to the ground surface. Under current ordinance, that requirement is 150 feet. We're finding this to be burdensome on a lot of our, homeowners, especially in areas like in the Spring Lake area, around our bathing beaches, because we've got a small lot size, a subsurface system is not an option. So there have been instances where perfectly fine systems are now being required to, shovel in all this money to literally pump their effluent up to the top of the property just for it to drain back down the hillside to be 150 feet from a swimming body of water. So we are proposing a 25-foot setback in that regard, which is still stricter than what the state code allows. Currently in this sewage code, there is no setback distance. So if effluent's being disinfected, it can go directly into a swimming body of water. In our area, that's kind of like Northern Oaks, Lake Windermere, Heritage Lake, things like that, Osamai Lake. So we do have a couple things already in place that are gonna, ensure that we don't have untreated sewage going into our bathing beaches. So any property that's served by one of these types of systems falls under our annual effluent program. So they get a postcard in the mail every year reminding them that they either need to submit passing effluent samples or no flow documentation. So we're not going to have instances that something goes completely unchecked and we've got nuisance conditions or foul things being introduced into swimming bodies of water. With this, we're really hoping to focus more on education with our homeowners in going through the process, doing open meetings, discussing with our realtors, discussing with our contractors. One of the things that was really eye-opening to me is honestly kind of how little the health department does after the sale of closing. They get a link with some information on their septic system, they get a diagram of their septic system, and then we kind of step back and let nature run its course. But with this, we're really hoping we can spend some more time doing education, sending out blast emails, some more postcards, things like that, reminding homeowners to get their septic tanks pumped, reminding them to get their, are there chlorine tablets in their feeder tubes, things like that. And then finally, we've got, a lot of partners just between our realtors, our contractors, and our inspectors. So we're hoping to grow those. And then, again, we're not eliminating the ability for these inspections to take place. We're just trying to, make the most sense of the current climate that we're in, to offer a little more flexibility for those that may not be purchasing a home in, you know, like the traditional sense. So, I'll open it up to questions.
Any comments, Russ?
Well, is the stuff you talked about at the beginning different than the stuff you talked about at the end, or are they linked? At the beginning, you were talking about some fees